So let's see how much went in from last week. So, again, this is multiple choice, so there's only one answer. Number 1 says, why do black people eat more red foods than green foods? Remember last week, we did the traffic light system. Red, amber, and green. What were red foods? What were red foods? Red foods.
Fat, sugar.
They were high in fat, sugar, and or salt, yeah? Fat, sugar, and or salt. And what did we say? How often should you be eating red foods per week?
None at all.
Did we say that?
No.
Is that what we're going to say to children? You're never allowed to eat red foods. Once a week, once or twice a week, you should be eating red foods, yeah? Because again, we got to think about this with regards to the children as well. We can't tell children not to eat something. They're going to be like, I'm going to eat it. I'm going to eat it more now that you've told me not to eat it, yeah? So frequency, we're just cutting down on the things that we shouldn't be eating. So red foods, we should be eating them maybe once or twice a week. Amber foods, we said 3 or 4 times, or even just once that day, and then not again that day. And then green, there was unlimited. Green, there was no limit. So green, you could have it once a day, you could have it twice a day, you could have it all throughout the day, yeah? However, we found that despite when we went through the red, amber, green, despite us knowing what the red foods are, what the amber foods are, and what the green foods are, we all tend to eat more red foods than green foods. Now, why is that? Is it because of A, red foods are pleasurable, which releases dopamine in the brain? Is it because of B, the obesogenic environment? C, we are addicted to red foods? Or D, all the above? All the above. And please, phones on silent from now, please. All phones on silent. So all the above. So why are we addicted to red foods? Why do we eat more red foods than green foods? We talked about the pleasure-pain principle. Remember, Freud said that we're motivated by these 2 forces, away from pain and towards pleasure. So anything that is painful, we avoid it. Anything that's pleasurable, we go towards it. And pain is not just physical. Pain can be emotional, mental, spiritual, psychological. It can even be something that you taste. If you taste something, if the children are tasting broccoli and they don't like it, and it's like, they say like, oh, that's disgusting. That's a painful experience now encoded into them, and they will avoid that later on. And we did talk about dopamine in the brain. So dopamine is actually in a part of the brain called the substantia nigra. Remember we talked about substantia nigra? Just look at that word. Nigra means black, substantia, substance. There's a black substance in everyone's brain, not just black people, and it controls the way we think, it controls the way we move, it controls the way we taste. This thing is so powerful, yeah? And for whatever reason, they don't teach this a lot at university. I went to university. Some people have done my course and they've done degrees in neuroscience, and they were like, they never mentioned the substantia nigra. Very, very important for our neurochemistry, our brain chemistry, yeah? Why? Because it's full of dopamine, dopamine producing neurons. And if this starts to fade, if the substantia nigra starts to fade, you'll start to get all of those nerve diseases, the neural diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and that sort of stuff. So dopamine. And remember, dopamine gets released because of pleasure. So the more dopamine released, the more we get addicted to things. Black people, we have more substantia nigra. So we have the ability to become more addicted to certain things, including red foods. Now remember, I like to break down words. I like to go through the etymology of words. So we looked at this. Addiction comes from the word addictus, person enslaved for debt or theft. So if you're addicted to something, you're still a slave to that thing, yeah? So we're addicted to red foods. Now remember, it's a red, amber, green. It's a game, red, amber, green. But if we were talking about colors of foods, what colors of foods should we be eating anyway?
Green.
We should be eating green foods, like literally green foods. In particular green foods because of the chlorophyll, but not just green. Because what did we say about melanin? What can melanin absorb on the electromagnetic spectrum? No. Yeah, what type of light? Melanin. All light. All light. So what sort of colors should we be eating? All colors. The rainbow. We should be eating all of the colors because that is the spectrum. If this is what we can see and melanin can absorb all of it, we should be eating all. And that is interesting because remember what we said about eumelanin and pheomelanin. Eumelanin, we need more vitamin D, which comes from the sun. Pheomelanin, they need more vitamin A, which comes from red, orange, and yellow foods. When you go into the supermarket, you see more red, orange, and yellow foods. Where's the darker foods? So look, you see the bright colored foods when you go to the supermarket. Where's the darker foods? Look at this. You know what that is? Kale. Who's ever seen kale like that? Look at that. Where are we getting these foods from? And why are they not on our shelves? All right, so that's question 1 out of the way. Question 2, what is the simplest way to define health? A, health is all about what you eat. It's diet and nutrition, which I hear a lot. Yeah, health is about what you eat. B, health is whatever the doctor says. C, health is energy. Or D, health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. C, health is energy. That's the easiest way to think about health. Health is energy. Very simple. Like I say, I made this up and I use it in schools, colleges, and universities, and everyone understands it. The children understand it, the college students, the university students here, adults understand it. Health equals energy. That's all it is about. It's about energy, yeah? And energy equals what? Movement. Yeah, so energy is actually vibrational frequencies. So if you go back to who they call the greatest scientist of all time, Albert Einstein, he said E equals mc squared, yeah? But I'm not going to go into the schools and tell the children E equals mc squared and vibrational frequencies and all of this stuff. If anything's vibrating, if your phone starts to ring and it vibrates, what's it doing? Moving. So health equals energy and energy equals movement. How do I know that? Anything that's alive moves. As soon as it's dead, what happens? It stops moving. That's how you know that something's dead. It stops moving. So the only way we know something is alive is if it's moving. Yeah? Is that person alive? Wait, let me shake them. Hold on. Let me see if their chest is moving. Yeah? Health equals energy. Energy equals movement. And that is my definition to make it very, very simple. Yeah? All right, next question says, what is photosynthesis? A, the absorption of light energy by plants to make glucose and oxygen from carbon dioxide and water. Or B, the reflection of light energy by plants to make carbon dioxide and water from glucose and oxygen. A. So, photosynthesis. Water plus carbon dioxide in the presence of sunlight equals oxygen and glucose. Why is that so powerful? Well, question 4 says, what 2 elements does every human cell in the body require to produce energy? Because if health equals energy, if we go down to the cells, what does the cell need for energy? Is it A, coffee and tea? B, milk and cookies? Or is it C, glucose and oxygen? Or D, Red Bull and Lucozade?
Red Bull and rum.
Red Bull and rum, yeah? C, glucose and oxygen. So the 2 things that plants produce, we ourselves need for energy. 2 plus 2 equals 4, right? Yeah? So look at this. We obviously have some form of relationship with plants. The same things they produce, we need. What we produce, they need. Yeah? So anytime you're low on energy, when people are low on energy, what do they go for? People laugh, but what do they go for? Coffee, Red Bull, Lucozade. These are the things that people go to when they're low on energy. Yeah? All right, now remember, glucose is sugar. Glucose is sugar. So really, all we need is oxygen because we've got a lot of glucose anyway. Number 5 says, how do you increase your energy level? So let's say you're low on energy. You need to increase your energy levels. How do you increase them? Do you A, drink more energy drinks? B, increase your powers? C, eat more red meat? Or D, increase your sugar intake? B. Increase your powers. And when we say powers, we mean this. P stands for plants. Preferably green, but we now know it's not just green, is it? Yeah? It's all colors, but preferably green because of this. Because of this. Preferably green, because it's the chlorophyll, the green pigment in plants that absorbs sunlight. So preferably green. O is oxygen and omegas. We're going to go through omegas today. Yeah? W stands for water. E stands for exercise. R stands for rest, or you could say recovery, repair, rejuvenate. And S is for sunlight, in particular ultraviolet rays. And ultraviolet B rays, they top up our melanin. They increase our melanin. And those type of rays are important for vitamin D production as well, which we're going to go through today. All right, next question says the body is electric. So what is electricity? Is it A, the flow or movement of electrons? Is it B, the flow or movement of protons? C, the flow or movement of neutrons? Or D, the stagnation, no movement of electrons? Which one is it? A, the flow of electrons. So let's get some electricity flowing around the room. So everyone stand up. Let's get you guys, everyone awake. We're going to get some electrons flowing. So remember, we're atoms now. We're going to work together and pass this round. So if you can just pass it round, make sure everyone gets one. Pass it round. I'm going to add another electron into the mix. Pass it round. Make sure everyone gets one. Please don't drop the electron. Pass it round. Make sure everyone gets one. Pass it round, pass it round, pass it round. Once you get to the top, pass it back down. Keep on going. All right, so you guys are atoms now, and this is the flow of electrons. So this is electricity. All right, bring it back down now. 5 seconds. Bring it back down. Quick. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, throw them now. Throw it. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. All right, take a seat. All right, so that was the flow of electrons. That was electricity. So you guys were all atoms and you were passing the electrons. That's the flow of electrons. All right, what is an atom? So this is what an atom looks like. What is an atom? Is it the largest particle of a chemical element that can exist, or is it B, the smallest particle of a chemical that can exist? The smallest. So when we're looking inside of the cells are made of molecules. The molecules are made of atoms. Here's an atom. It's got the protons and neutrons in the nucleus. Yeah? In the nucleus. That's the brain of the cell. So electrons carry what type of charge? Positive or negative? Proton carries what type of charge? Positive. Positive. So electron carries what type of charge? Negative. Neutron carries what type of charge? Neutral. All right. So we've got the electron, which is the negative charge, which is what our body needs. Yeah? So number 7 is B. So what's acids and alkalines about? Number 8, what is an acid? A substance that accepts protons and donates electrons. Is it B, something that should be avoided at all costs? You know, acids are bad. C, a substance that has a high pH. Or is it D, a substance that accepts electrons and donates protons? D, acids accept electrons and donate protons. So if I'm an acid, I'm going to accept an electron which has a negative charge, but at the same time, because of balance, I donate a proton which has a positive charge. Yeah? That's the reason why if we eat an acidic food, we're going to be high in protons, which means it's a positive charge. So we need to balance that out with an alkaline diet, which is what donates the electrons. So question 9 says, what is an alkaline? Is it a substance that accepts protons and donates electrons? B, a substance that is good for you. C, a substance that has low pH. Or D, a substance that accepts electrons and donates protons. The answer is A. So the alkaline now does the exact opposite. Alkaline is going to donate the electron and accept a proton. So in order for electricity to flow, you need acids and alkalines. You need something to donate the electron, and you need something to accept the electron. That's why your body is made of acids, amino acids, lactic acid. In your stomach, you've got something called hydrochloric acid. If it weren't for that, you wouldn't be able to break down the electric food or the alkaline food that Dr. Sebi talks about. We need acids to accept electrons because the body is electric. And going back to school, we think about electrical forces. Remember, the opposite charge attracts. So if you've got an electron and a proton, they attract. If you have the same charge, it repels. So if we're acidic, if we're made of acids, we're made of amino acids, fatty acids, hydrochloric acid, our DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. So we're made of acids. That means we're full of protons. If we eat an acidic diet, that's repulsive. That's the reason why Dr. Sebi says we need an alkaline diet, because this is us. So this is what we should be consuming. Yeah? Just makes sense. All right. So, next question. According to the electromagnetic visible spectrum, how does the naked eye see green? A, it is the color being absorbed by the surface that the naked eye is looking at, or B, it is the color being reflected from a surface that is absorbing all the other colors from the visible spectrum. B. So every time we see green, the thing that we're looking at is not actually green. That's what's being reflected back to our eye. All the other colors are being absorbed by that surface, yeah? So the green is being reflected back to the eye. All right, question 11. According to the electromagnetic visible spectrum, what is white? A, the absence of color. B, it doesn't exist. C, reflection of all light. Or D, the absorption of all light. The reflection of all light. Yeah? The reflection of all light. So when you see something that's white, in nature we're talking about, in nature, then it's not absorbing anything. It's reflecting all of the colors back to your eye. So all of the colors of the sunlight are coming straight to your eye. That's the reason why you can't look at the sun for too long. You look at the sun for too long, all of the visible spectrum light is coming into your eye. You start to see white spots. You might get dizzy, yeah? Because it's all coming into your eye. Nothing's being absorbed. Okay, according to the electromagnetic visible spectrum, what is black? A, the absence of color. B, it doesn't exist. C, the reflection of all light. Or D, the absorption of all light. D, when we see black in nature, it is the absorption of all light. So when we look out in the stars, when we look out in the universe, what color do we see? Black. Does that mean there's no light there? No, that means all the light is being absorbed. So it's not darkness up there, it's blackness. It's all light that we're seeing in the universe. So the more, the darker the surface, and again in nature, the more light it's absorbing, yeah? And think about that when we think about melanin. Yeah, so melanin absorbs all light. That's the reason why we should be eating a wide variety of colors. But what do we eat? We literally eat just red foods because that's what's on display. Why? Because the people who put it out, they're feeding their own melanin, which is pheomelanin. Pheomelanin, what sort of colors do they need? Red, orange, and yellow. So, and then green. So when you go into the supermarkets and you buy your fruits and vegetables, guess what you see? Red, orange, yellow, and green. Those are the only colors you see. Where's the blue? Where's the purple? Where's the indigo? Where's the violet? Where's those colors? Yeah? So you wonder why we as black people, we're out of balance. Yeah? We need a wide variety. So we need this way going that way. And when I say green, it should be dark green. So when you're getting your kale, it should be dark. Yeah? All right, speaking of melanin, what are the two main types of skin melanin? A, eumelanin and pheomelanin, or B, neuromelanin and chlorophyll? A, eumelanin and pheomelanin. Eumelanin comes in black and brown, pheomelanin comes in red and yellow. So everyone has melanin. Every single person has melanin, but obviously black people, we have a type called eumelanin, black and brown, which means it absorbs more of the electromagnetic spectrum. Pheomelanin is red and yellow, and what's surprising, this is why I love science. Science is simple to me. In order to top up pheomelanin, which comes in red and yellow, you need red and yellow foods. And in order to top up eumelanin, you need your darker foods, obviously a combination of all of them, because that's what makes black. Yeah, literally, you are what you eat. You are what you eat, exactly, yeah? And again, we live in a society that tells us color's not important, but color is extremely important. That's the reason why every time you look at a color of a fruit, it's representing a vibrational frequency. Every time you look at a color of a fruit, it's representing a vibrational frequency. So these are lower vibrations, these are higher vibrations. And the darker the fruit, the more antioxidants it has. Just keep that in mind. The darker the vegetable, the more antioxidants it has. All right, and then obviously you can be a combination of the two. So you're gonna need everything. Again, you're gonna need a combination of everything, including vitamin D and your UV ultraviolet light. And when it comes onto how they're made, it's a process. So it starts with an amino acid called tyrosine. This is in the melanocyte we're talking about. And before tyrosine gets converted to pheomelanin or eumelanin, it has to go through a long chemical process, yeah? So here's pheomelanin. It involves cysteine, which is sulfur. Eumelanin involves more selenium and copper. And look, tyrosine, in the presence of this enzyme called tyrosinase, gets converted into this thing called DOPA. What does DOPA sound like? Dopamine. That is the prerequisite of dopamine. This is the reason why we as black people, we have the ability to become more addicted to things because of more DOPA. Tyrosine getting converted to DOPA, then long sequence, and then you either get pheomelanin or eumelanin. So there's a sequence to it, yeah? Now, some people say that it's created in the pineal gland. Now, we talked about that last week. The pineal gland releases what two hormones? Serotonin and melatonin. Listen.
Pineal gland is the gland that's responsible for higher consciousness.
So-called third eye.
Exactly. Your pineal gland is your third eye. And very interestingly, it had been called your third eye by ancient people. But when they found the pineal gland and started to examine it, they actually found eye tissue in the pineal gland because the pineal gland is sensitive to light. Now, only God knows what a light-sensitive gland is doing flat dab in the middle of your brain. The point is, it is sensitive to light, and it's involved in serotonin and melatonin metabolism. These are two very important neurotransmitters for higher consciousness. In any case, the pineal gland, which is responsible for the processing of melatonin and serotonin, is also very, very, very sensitive to fluoride. In fact, the highest concentrations of fluoride in the body are found in this absolutely critical gland that's important for higher consciousness. Now, fluoride is a classic dumbing agent, and it's the active ingredient in Prozac and a lot of other serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
So, it releases melatonin. The pineal gland releases melatonin. When melatonin is released, it activates all of these other hormones. Look at this. Look how many hormones rely on melatonin's release. Yeah? So melatonin is like the main hormone that regulates all the other hormones. Yeah? Now, instead of going through all of them, the one that we're talking about today for melanin is this one. It's under the pituitary gland. It's called MSH, melanocyte stimulating hormone. This is what's in your notes from last week. Melanocyte stimulating hormone. Once this gets released, it activates the pituitary gland to release melanocyte stimulating hormone. And then it's that in your melanocyte stimulating hormone where melanin is released. So there's a process. Sunlight through the eye activates your pineal gland, which activates serotonin during the day, melatonin at night, and then melatonin activates your pituitary gland to activate your MSH, melanocyte stimulating hormone, to activate your melanocytes to release melanin. So there's a whole process for us getting melanin. We just think we're born with it, you know, my melanin's on fleek, look at me, my melanin's great. But there's a process, and we mess it up as black people all the time. But if we don't, look at this. Which one's the mother? Like mother and daughter bond. The mother who is 54 years old is the one holding the daughter on her back. If we don't mess up the process, we literally don't age. We don't mess up the process. Now, this is called melanogenesis, the process of melanin. So it is a process, and I like to use analogies like you guys know. So melanogenesis is a process. It requires unity. It's like the 100-meter relay. It requires unity.
On your mark.
So,
Set.
we've got sunlight. Sunlight needs to come through the eye first, yeah? We don't just have melanin. Melanin is great, but sunlight needs to come through the eye, activate our pineal gland. Our pineal gland then activates serotonin and melatonin. Melatonin is powerful because melatonin is then going to activate your pituitary gland. Your pituitary gland is going to activate MSH, melanocyte stimulating hormone, which is going to release the melanin. And when it releases the melanin, oh my gosh, melanin's amazing, isn't it? Watch melanin now. Watch melanin, watch melanin. Melanin's amazing, look at melanin. Oh my gosh, so amazing. We think melanin's so amazing, look at that, yeah? But we don't realize it was a process to get to melanin. There was a process, yeah? So we think, oh, melanin's so amazing, but it was a process. And it started with sunlight and the pineal gland. It was a process, so all of these people should be getting credit as well. But what happens when, you know, the process is messed up? So what happens if, you know, we're wearing shades? So we're not getting sunlight through the eyes. What happens there? What happens if we're not going to bed at the right time? So we're messing up the process of serotonin and melatonin. What happens if we're eating an acidic diet? We're not eating alkaline foods. What happens if we're not drinking enough water? What happens if our pituitary gland doesn't get activated? Then we rely on melanin, thinking melanin's amazing, thinking black don't crack, and all of a sudden, oh no, what's happened to melanin? Oh no, what? Melanin, what's going on? Oh, I thought melanin was undefeatable. What happened? What's going on with melanin? I thought melanin was the best. I thought melanin was the greatest. I thought black don't crack. What's going on? Yeah? This is how we take for granted the melanin that we have. It's all about unity. All about unity, yeah? Atoms, they come together to form molecules. They unite. Molecules come together to form cells. They unite. Cells unite to create tissues. Tissues unite to create organs. Organs unite to create organ systems. And you are one big living organism. It's all about unity. And that's actually what we just did when we passed around the electrons. We were creating unity in the room. We were creating a unity. All right, last question, question 14. If the fish is sick, so if you had a fish in a fishbowl and the fish was sick, what would you do? If the fish is sick, what should you do? Should you A, vaccinate the fish? Should we vaccinate the fish? The fish has got a coronavirus. Let's vaccinate the fish. All right. B, should we do surgery on the fish? Slice up this fish, yeah? C, should we give the fish antibiotics? Should we give the fish antibiotics? Anti means what? Against. What does biotic mean? Life. So we give the fish something that's against its life. Okay. Should we D, change the water that the fish is swimming in? All right. Or should we E, give the fish hormones? Hormonal therapy. The fish wants to be a different type of fish. F, give the fish statin drugs. The fish has got high blood pressure. Should we give the fish statin drugs? G, give the fish painkillers. It's in a lot of pain. No? Give the fish chemotherapy. Yeah? Should we give the fish chemo? No. I, should we cut the organs out of a healthy fish and sew it into the sick fish? Should we do that? That is what they call organ donating. Yeah? Or should we give the fish hospital food? Because if we're sick, we're in our hospital. So obviously we give the fish hospital food. Or, my favorite, K, should we blame the fish for getting sick? It's your fault. It's your own fault that you're sick. That's what we do as black people, isn't it? It's your own fault that you're overweight. It's your own fault that your children are getting into knife crime. Yeah? Blame the fish for getting sick. What should we do? What's the logical thing to do? Change the water. In other words, look at the environment that the fish is in. Yeah? Change the water. But we live in an environment, we live in a society that does everything but change the water. We vaccinate people, we do surgery on people, we give people antibiotics, we give people hormonal therapy, statin drugs, painkillers, chemotherapy, organ donating, cutting livers and kidneys out of one person, putting it into another person. We give the people hospital food, and we blame people for getting sick. We blame each other for our own sickness. Blame black people for their own sickness. That's what we do. We do everything but the obvious, which is look at the environment. And speaking of the environment, remember your body is over 70% water. So we've got to be looking about the internal environment as well. But speaking of the external environment, we called it last week the obesogenic environment. Remember, the obesogenic environment accounts for the wider influences on health and weight, requiring a move away from a more traditional understanding of obesity as a primarily self-determined state. We need to start rethinking obesity as a normal response to essentially an abnormal environment. And this is something I want you to keep in mind throughout the whole course. The longer you live in an abnormal environment, the more you'll start thinking it's normal. Yep. So remember last week, this is when I asked you, why are the children so overweight? Why we live in this sort of environment? This is what you guys said. So these are the things that the individual can control. These are the environment. So marketing, advertising, misinformation, the availability of things, the environment, the attractiveness of the food. Yeah? So let me just quickly, before we start week 2, let me just quickly show you some examples of the obesogenic environment. A few years ago, Michael Jordan, who arguably is the greatest basketball player to ever live, he was paid to endorse Coca-Cola and McDonald's. Now think about that, because I grew up idolizing this guy. The best basketball player in the world, you could argue the best athlete in the world, is promoting Coca-Cola and McDonald's. Yeah? So obviously, athletes are going to grow up loving Coca-Cola and McDonald's. And 2012 Olympics, who was the biggest sponsors? McDonald's and Coca-Cola. And a lot of us do it. They always get us. Remember last week I talked about the grime artist, So Large. His name was So Large. And he goes around putting bread on his beef. Remember what bread on his beef means? It means he's not going to touch you. Yeah? I'm not going to touch you, but I'm going to get someone to sort you out. Yeah? This is how the obesogenic environment carries on. I'm not even going to kill you. I'm going to get your own people to kill you. So look at this. They use us to promote all of this stuff to us. Here's Beyonce. This was years ago, before she developed a bit of consciousness, but before that, she was selling Pepsi to us. Yeah? She was there selling Pepsi to us. And then think about all the hip-hop artists. As soon as you become a successful hip-hop artist, what do you start selling to the black community? Alcohol. Alcohol. Start selling your alcohol to the community. Alcohol will dry out your cells, leading to type 2 diabetes, all of the stuff that we suffer from as black people. As soon as you're successful as a black person, you better start selling alcohol to your community, yeah? And not to be outdone, even over here, here's Anthony Joshua selling Lucozade to us, yeah? Again, they always use us. They always use us, or they use our culture to promote the obesogenic environment to us, so we buy it. Look at this. This is Chris, Sensations Chris, Caribbean jerk chicken. Who they promoting that to, yeah? Look at this. Taste testing the crazy new seedless avocados. We're gonna start having seedless avocados soon. We've already got seedless grapes. Yeah, some seedless watermelon, so seedless avocados. This is the obesogenic environment, yeah? And for the people who say, oh, I'm vegan, so it won't affect me. Oh, well, all of the fast food chains are now coming out with vegan burgers, yeah? So McDonald's are coming out with a vegan burger. KFC will launch vegan chicken, which don't even make sense. Vegan chicken. Vegan chicken. So all these vegans thinking you're healthy, the obesogenic environment says, okay, let's make this vegan, let's make that vegan. And look at this, for the people who have their third eye open, who are they trying to promote this to? This is in America. It's called the Impossible Whopper, yeah? It's from Burger King, yeah? Look at the colors. Who are they promoting that to? I wonder. Who are they trying to get into their subconscious mind with, yeah? That's over there. People will say, oh, that's America. What about the UK? Well, look at this. This is that Burger King, that Impossible Whopper. A doctor says that Burger King's Impossible Whopper has 18 million times more estrogen than regular Whopper. Now, you're going to learn on this course that estrogen is the reason why black women, you suffer from fibroids, PCOS, endometriosis, all that sort of stuff. Black men, you suffer from high blood pressure, obesity, man boobs, all that sort of stuff because of estrogen, yeah? And these vegan burgers are 18 million times more estrogen than anything else, yeah? And then this is America. So again, people will say, oh, that's America. It's not happening over here. Look at this. This is it's called the Rebel Whopper. So this is the UK. And just watch this advert. Think about
Two
who they're trying to
Whoppers,
target.
both with the same signature flame-grilled taste, the juicy tomatoes, sliced onions, and freshly cut lettuce. Original Whopper on the left. New plant-based Whopper on the right. In fact, the new Rebel Whopper is so similar to the original, it makes you wonder why they bothered. Oh, fair play. The new Rebel Whopper, only at Burger King.
Huh? So who are they trying to promote that to? Whoa, where'd they get that word from? Us. So look at this. That's the obesogenic environment. That's the reason why I say every time I do this course, I don't talk about food really in depth until week 4. Let's get the science out of the way. Because if I get the science out of the way, you guys know what to eat. I shouldn't have to tell you. But what we tend to do as black people, we want to follow people. What did Dr. Sebi say to eat? Oh, let's eat that. The obesogenic environment will say, what are you lot eating? Okay, I'll just poison that then. What are you lot eating? Spirulina? Okay, I'll just poison the spirulina. No, spirulina, here you go. There you go. That's how the obesogenic environment works. What, everyone's turning vegan now? Okay, well, here's some vegan chicken. You guys love chicken, right? Here's vegan chicken. Yeah? We need the science first. So look at this, call to tighten junk food adverts off rules after obesity link shown. Obviously, these adverts have an effect on us, yeah? And let's quickly watch this just so you understand how I break down science. So this is so large, and because we broke it down last week, you should understand what he's saying a little bit better now. So listen to the words, he's speaking English, just tell me what he's saying.
Be on your best behavior. If I have to spend my savings, only the savior can save you. Yeah, I'm larger than your average. I pay the striker's salary. I'll put bread on my beef. Call that a rich boy sandwich. Heavyweight putting on calories. I pay the striker's salary. I'll put bread on my beef. Call that a rich boy sandwich. You ain't got ham, you're a has-been. You ain't got ham, you're a has-been. I'll put bread on my beef. I'll put bread on my beef. Put your money where your mouth is. Come put your money where your mouth is. I'll get bread on the street, so I can put bread on my beef. Who am I ramp with?
He says, who am I ramp with? Don't ramp with me. That's how the obesogenic environment carries on with us. Who are you ramping with? You don't know. Anything you say is healthy, I'll just poison it. That's the reason why we need the science behind it first. Ankara, who were here last week, they're not here this week. They're going to be here next week. But Ankara, they do moringa products. So people ask me, where do you get your products from? I get them from Ankara. Ankara are a black-owned supplement company, and they get their moringa straight from Africa, so it's the proper thing. And you taste the difference. I've bought moringa from Amazon and all that sort of stuff, and I can taste the difference. So when I'm getting my products, I'm getting it from Ankara. Making sure I get it from Ankara, because if I say moringa, you guys buy moringa and thinking it's healthy, you're getting moringa that's probably contaminated and that sort of stuff, yeah? All right, so let's recap out of the way. Is there any questions?